You're watching The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakil. Tonight, Delhi's power corridors are shaken by what many are calling DHEXIT or Dhexit, which is essentially about the exit of Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar. At 9:30 p.m. yesterday, that is last night, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar resigned, sending shockwaves through the political establishment. Why did this happen? What does this mean? And what comes next? We have the inside track and the political story behind the story. Remember, in December of 2024, that is just 6 months ago, the opposition had moved an impeachment motion against the Vice President, a first of its kind in parliamentary history. The motion was, of course, rejected on technical grounds by the Deputy Chairman. So how did that distrust, which was visible between Mr Dhankhar and the opposition, change to distrust between Mr Dhankhar and the treasury benches? Remember, the opposition had gone on to say that Mr Dhankhar, who holds a bipartisan chair, who held a bipartisan chair as the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, was actually a spokesperson or a mouthpiece of the government. Now, let me tell you what happened. Sources tell us that the immediate trigger was a motion to impeach a judge. Yes, Justice Yashwant Verma, the infamous Delhi High Court judge from whose house alleged cash stash was recovered. Here's what happened. Jagdeep Dhankhar announced that opposition's motion to remove Justice Verma, and he did so in the Rajya Sabha. The problem is, how did he go ahead without informing the government or the treasury benches? This move set off alarm bells in the NDA camp. Government sources say this was more than just a communication lapse. They argue that if Dhankhar had told them, then NDA MPs themselves would have signed this motion. But Jagdeep Dhankhar did not. And here's the most important part of this story. The government had its own plans. They wanted the motion to originate in the Lok Sabha, not in the Rajya Sabha. There's a difference. Lok Sabha is the house of the people or the house of the common. Rajya Sabha is the house of elders. For the government, Dhankhar's announcement was seen as an act of defiance. Someone would say a red line was crossed. What followed was pure Delhi-style damage control. Top ministers rushing to meet the Prime Minister. Urgent meetings with allies were called. MPs were being briefed. The government scrambled to prepare its own motion against the judge, that is Justice Yashwant Verma. It collected signatures and then crucially spoke to Jagdeep Dhankhar. That's when Mr Dhankhar read the writing on the wall and he resigned. So what happens now? The Constitution, remember, has no provision for an acting Vice President. That means the Rajya Sabha will now be run by Deputy Chairperson Harivansh Narayan Singh. Harivansh Narayan Singh is also from the JDU, was the JDU nominee to this chair. He also had a meeting with President Draupadi Murmu earlier today. But here's the big question. When will India have a new Vice President? There's no fixed deadline. Rules, in fact, say that vacancy should be filled as soon as possible, but politics certainly will decide that timeline. And how is the Vice President elected? Here's a quick explainer. The Election Commission issues a notification. The Electoral College consists of MPs from both the houses, which is in all 788 in all. They vote through a proportional representation system and the voting is by secret ballot, which means it's not just maths, it's strategy, which is very clear. And let's go beyond the headlines. What does this mean overall? Remember, this is not just a resignation, it's a rupture, what we are seeing at the top of India's constitutional order. The Vice President is not a ceremonial post. He is the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, and a key player in the legislative business or the legislative strategy. Jagdeep Dhankhar's exit creates uncertainty for the government at a time when big ticket bills are lined up for the monsoon session and also for the winter session. Second, this reveals the tension between the highest constitutional officers and the government of the day. Dhankhar was seen as a strong voice, sometimes critical, often assertive, though his open comments on judicial overreach went against the government strategy. That streak may have cost him the government's full trust. The judge impeachment episode seems to have been the last straw. Let's talk politics now. The election for a new vice president is not just about filling a vacancy, it's about control of the Rajya Sabha. With 2024 behind us, the NDA wants smooth legislative pathway for its reforms. The opposition will see this as an opportunity to ally its own MPs and test unity. Expect some intense backroom negotiations and don't rule out surprise candidates. And finally, history. We have seen some friction before. Remember Vice President Krishan Kant during the Vajpayee era, or even Hamid Ansari's assertive tenure. But a vice president resigning midterm, this is rare, unprecedented. It tells us also about something deeper about the nature of power. So tonight the big question is, did Jagdeep Dhankhar overplay his hand, and who will be the next vice president? Will he be a government's choice or a consensus candidate? What is clear is the battle for the upper house has just begun. Joining me on the show tonight, Supriya Shrinate is the national spokesperson of the Congress. We have KC Tyagi, former member of the Rajya Sabha and also senior JDU leader. Arvind Savant is Lok Sabha MP of the Shiv Sena. He's joining us. K. Nehru is Lok Sabha MP of the DMK. Professor Vineet Singh is LJP spokesperson. Professor Sajjin Kumar is political analyst. KC Tyagi, as someone who has been very close to Mr. Dhankhar, did he at any stage indicate about his tension, this tension which is now evident between him and the government?
नहीं मारिया जी, मैं पिछले 35 सालों से हमारे मित्रवत रिश्ते रहे हैं। नवी लोकसभा में मैं और धनखड़ जी दोनों साथ साथ जनता दल के टिकट पर आए थे और जनता दल के अंदर की जो व्यूह रचना थी उसमें भी हम दोनों देवीलाल जी के नॉमिनी थे। उस नाते भी हमारा करीबीपन था और ये रिश्ते हमारे लंबे समय तक चलते रहे। हालांकि मेरी तो निरंतरता जनता दल परिवार के साथ बनी रही, लेकिन वो बीच में कांग्रेस पार्टी के भी टिकट पर विधानसभा के सदस्य रहे और उनकी जो कोर्ट में जो उनकी उपस्थिति थी, जो हाजिरी थी, उससे अरुण जेटली जी प्रभावित हुए और उनको बीजेपी में ले आए। और मुझे बहुत अच्छा भी लगा और आश्चर्य भी हुआ जब वो गवर्नर बने। उन्होंने कई बार मुझको वहाँ पर आमंत्रित किया, कल कोलकाता में भी, लेकिन उपराष्ट्रपति के चुनाव में मैं सक्रिय था, उनके शपथ ग्रहण समारोह में भी था। अब जो वर्तमान में जो प्रकरण है उसको लेकर के मैं दुखी भी हूँ, अचंभित भी हूँ और व्यथित भी हूँ। एक किसान पॉलिटिक्स से मैंने अपनी राजनीति की शुरुआत की है और उनके कई संस्मरण मुझको याद आते हैं जब किसान परिवार का सदस्य होने के नाते उन्होंने एमएसपी को लेकर के भी, किसान आंदोलन को लेकर के भी और किसानों की एगोनी को लेकर के भी समय समय पर अपनी राय जाहिर की। और एक स्टेज पर तो वो कृषि मंत्री के साथ भी उन्होंने कहा कि मैं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पद पे हूँ और आपसे कहना चाहता हूँ कि ये किसानों की समस्याओं का हल क्यों नहीं हो रहा है। लेकिन मुझे एक चीज़ का बड़ा आश्चर्य है, और ये आपने कहा कि ये पहली बार इस्तीफा हुआ है इस तरह के पद का, तो इस पद पर रहने वाले किसी उपराष्ट्रपति पर महाअभियोग का भी कैंपेन पहली बार ही चला था। पिछले साल का आपको याद होगा 10 दिसंबर को धनखड़ जी के खिलाफ हमारे कांग्रेस पार्टी के मित्रों ने प्लस कुछ और साथियों ने महाअभियोग दिया था कि ये गवर्नमेंट के लिए बहुत प्रोएक्टिव है। और राज्यसभा में जो लोग कवर करते हैं पत्रकार मित्र वो जानते हैं कि सरकार के मंत्रियों से भी ज़्यादा कई अवसरों पर वो सरकार की हिमायत करते थे। ये भी पहली बार हुआ कि उनके खिलाफ जो है आया है विश्वास प्रस्ताव और किन्हीं टेक्निकल कारणों से वो पास नहीं हो सका। अगर हो जाता तो ये भी एक इतिहास की घटना होती कि किस तरह से एक उपराष्ट्रपति को अपदस्थ किया गया। मैंने पहले ही आपसे कहा मैं अचंभित भी हूँ और मैं व्यथित भी हूँ, दुखी भी हूँ उनके इस्तीफे पर। लेकिन जो 2 दिन से मैं देख और सुन रहा हूँ वो जरूर दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है। उनको लेकर के 1000 तरह की चर्चाएं मार्केट में हैं। इस वजह से इस्तीफा हुआ, उसने ये कह दिया। और हमारे कांग्रेस पार्टी के जो मित्र हैं, सबसे ज़्यादा दुखी वही हैं जो पिछले साल दिसंबर में उनका इस्तीफा मांग रहे थे। तो राजनीति अब चर्चाओं, अफवाहों, षड्यंत्रों, कैरेक्टर असैसिनेशन इस पे आ गई है। अब से 30 साल पहले घटना हुई होती, मैं वीपी सिंह जी मेरे नेता थे, उन्होंने राजनीति से रिटायरमेंट लिया, कोई चर्चा अफवाह नहीं थी। जयप्रकाश नारायण मेरे नेता थे, उन्होंने राजनीति से त्याग पत्र दिया, इस्तीफा लिया,
सवाल इसलिए उठ रहा है कि क्यों रिटायर किया, बिकॉज उन्होंने कहा है चिट्ठी में अपने, जो उन्होंने लिखा था कि उनकी हेल्थ कंडीशन के वजह से वो रिटायर कर रहे हैं, और कल वो उन्होंने पूरा हाउस कंडक्ट किया था। तो इसीलिए सवाल उठ रहा है कि क्या हुआ।
नहीं, मैं उठने के खिलाफ नहीं हूँ, सवाल उठाने वालों से भी मुझे कोई शिकायत नहीं है। लेकिन मेरा कहना ये है कि अब से 35-40 साल पहले अगर इस तरह से इस्तीफा हुआ होता, हाँ, तो इस तरह की आशंकाएं व्यक्त नहीं की जाती जैसी आज हो रही हैं। तो राजनीति का जो हो रहा है जिस तरह का, मैं उसको लेके चिंता हूँ। पहले ऐसी सहिष्णुता नहीं थी, कैरेक्टर असैसिनेशन नहीं थे, र्यूमर मॉन्गरिंग नहीं थी, जो जितनी और जिस समय इतनी आज हो गई है। और मैं किसी एक पार्टी या एक व्यक्ति को इसलिए दोष नहीं देता, इस तरह का हो गया, उसके प्रेजेंट स्टेट और अफेयर पर भी मैं दुखी हूँ।
ओके, सुप्रिया श्रीनेत, व्हाट चेंज्ड from December of 2024 to now that all Congress leaders seem to be talking about the great characters or the manner in which he would conduct the house? What changed?
I would actually beg to differ. I do believe that in his tenure he brought a lot of defame to the office that he held. I don't subscribe to the view that he was great and he was doing everything great. I think he was extremely partisan. I think the language that he used for the opposition leaders time and again, and used public platforms to attack and make public political speeches, I don't think that was becoming of his office. But Maria, that is not the point here. The point is that in independent India, a serving vice president in the middle of his term, he was elected in 22, so roughly at half his term, has quit. Please understand, this is not just anybody quitting the position. Vice President is the second highest constitutional office right after the President of this country. And what one sees is a rather unceremonious, unprecedented, and an exit that has taken everybody by surprise. He was not just conducting the house yesterday, he had meetings planned today. He was supposed to visit Jaipur tomorrow. So everything was in place for him. What happened that he suddenly had to quit is the question that we are raising, and I'll tell you why we are raising that question. There is no love loss or anything for the man, so to say. There is concern for the seat that he occupied, because we have seen in the past, demonetization happened, you had RBI Governor Urjit Patel resign. An issue was raised in the Election Commission, you had Ashok Lavasa resign in his midterm, Urjit Patel midterm. Now, Vice President Dhankhar midterm. Is this a midterm government is what everybody is asking. And I'm sorry to say, the reaction that one has seen from the treasury benches, if you actually go back and if you are willing to and can show the tweet of the Prime Minister, Mr Dhankhar bent backwards sometimes in Rajya Sabha to accommodate the treasury benches. And then to see the message that has come in from the Prime Minister is very cryptic, if not cold. Where I disagree with Tyagi ji is right to say that it may have not caused such a political furore 30 years back. But 30 years back, you did not have multiple people in government and opposition on direct social media where you could hear them, you knew exactly what they were saying, their words made a difference. The Prime Minister's tweet is what the Prime Minister is saying, and it's very cryptic, it's very cold, and which is why one wants to understand that everything has moved away, and this is the last thing I want to say. Everything seems to have moved away from the realm of transparency and democracy to something that is shrouded in secrecy. And I personally feel it is not good for the country. It is not good for governance. There needs to be a certain amount of transparency involved. And the constitutional crisis that it has unfolded, nobody can just elevate and become the vice president. There is a certain election process that follows. And which is why the question is, what went wrong? And I want to say this, a lot of people have said he has cited health reasons. absolutely, anybody is entitled to cite health reasons, prioritize his health. Are you telling me that people in position of power in India have not prioritized their health? I mean, are you telling me that the Vice President of India could not have got the best medical health or medical advice while remaining in this chair and could have discharged his duties?
So perhaps
we've had examples of Vajpayee ji, we've had examples of Dr. Saab, so many people.
Professor,
so, which is why
Singh,
I don't buy everything that is being said on the record.
Yes, the concerns that are being raised of that he held a very important role. He was the vice president, and because of that, the ex officio chairman of the Lok Sabha, he resigns on the day one of the monsoon session. This is a crucial session, and then he cites health reasons and says that that's the reason why he cannot continue in office. So, of course, it's shrouded in mystery.
Maria ji, good evening and good evening to everyone on the panel. I'm glad that Supriya ji came out clean that there is no love lost for Jagdeep Dhankhar ji because their erstwhile action said the same thing. When TMC MP was mimicking and Rahul Gandhi was making video grinning from year to year, that showed enough respect for the erstwhile vice president. But why there is so much of fuss? It's such an ordinary thing. Somebody has put down his paper citing the health reason and government has accepted it. So we should respect that decision. Now, I must tell you what the opposition is doing, what they are at best. They're trying to find out some masala out of ordinary thing. Because they're completely
this isn't ordinary. This isn't ordinary. This is anything but ordinary.
Maria ji,
this
if
is
you let me finish
unprecedented.
I will take 30 seconds to finish it up and then you can ask me the question, okay? This is not the first time a VP has resigned. There has been cases twice. VV Giri resigned.
Yes, they went on to become the president.
They became presidents.
Yes.
There's a big difference.
Yes.
They did not resign and demit office.
I said that was a different reason, but this was not the first case I'm saying.
No, there have been 5 such instances. In fact, not 2, 5 such instances where vice presidents have resigned and gone on to become the president. This is the first time a vice president resigns mid-term. He has completed 3 years in office, 2 more years to go. And the reason why he has resigned, his health reason is what he sorted, which he has stated, but he appears to be extremely healthy.
Look, I tell you what, Maria ji, on this panel, in fact, no one knows for sure what has happened actually. We all are groping in the dark. So don't try to be Sherlock Holmes because we'll end up as a goofy Karamchand. What I'm trying to simply say, if he has put down the paper citing some genuine reason, let's respect that. The government has accepted it, so there is no if and but. What I'm trying to say, why opposition suddenly is coming out this thing? That they have got a heart full of love for this gentleman. My point is, if you want to justify...
There is a constitutional crisis. Do you understand the import of the constitutional crisis, sir?
There is no constitutional crisis. You tell me, is there any hindrance in the working, in the day-to-day working of
There is an office that lies vacant.
No.
You don't see a constitutional crisis? There's an office that lies vacant with no reasons known, sir.
Did I interrupt when you were talking? So why can't you be...
I didn't make inane arguments. I made valid arguments. You could not have interrupted.
At least show some courtesy, na? Let me finish up. You are not the anchor, Maria ji anchor, so he has got all the right to stop.
Boliye.
So Maria ji, what I'm trying to say, if there is, I don't see any crisis in the working of
You don't
Parliament.
see any crisis, but no. There are a lot of people who are seeing crisis. K.N. Nehru, again, the point that has been made, what changed in the last 6 months? From bringing an impeachment motion to now where all of you seem to be praising him.
So let's just make it clear. I'm just going to join Supriya Madam in saying that we have been constant in our language, in our tone and tenor. What are we constant about? We have been very clear that the Constitution is the last word. It's not single person or law or anything else. It's the Constitution. Now, we have nothing against this, individual, Honorable Vice President who has just resigned. We have got nothing against him. But we are just simply saying the law of the land is supreme. Now, what does the law of the land say? That the second most constitutional position, you cannot just simply wish away saying that there's no crisis. You cannot have an acting prime minister. You cannot have an acting chief justice. And it doesn't augur well for such a good democracy to have an acting vice president. So all that the opposition and the India Alliance is saying is just shed light on what had happened. And let's hope something like this never happens. There is respect for that office. Now, let's get into the reasons. Now, health issue seems suspect. He has, of course, had certain issues, and I do not want to go personally into health issues because it's not the right thing to do. But since he has occupied a constitutional position and is being answerable to the public, we don't accept, or basically it's not being accepting. The health reason is just suspect. Second, the timing. The timing is also very, I think, crucial here. Now, the ruling party, the treasury benches, has always said the opposition seems to be raising untenable issues when the prime minister is out of the country. And you're supposed to be supporting the government and the treasury to show support to the prime minister who's away from the country. Now, prime minister on the eve of his visit, especially with so many bills pending, how can a vice president, the number 2 constitutional position, just resign? I don't think that opposition trying here is to undermine anything. I think we are going to be very supportive of this constitutional position and expecting reasons. I think expecting reason is just a fair ask in democracy.
Okay.
I think it's not about criticism. It is not about any issue or anything that's burning out. But what? Why? I mean, we just want to know because
Yes.
it's a second constitutional position.
Yes. What, why is something that should be answered, K.C. Tyagi. You're an alliance partner.
मारिया जी, उनका इस्तीफा जिन परिस्थितियों में हुआ है उसको मैंने आश्चर्यजनक भी बताया और मैं उसको लेकर व्यक्तिगत तौर पे दुखी हूँ। लेकिन जितनी चर्चाओं और अफवाहों का बाजार गर्म है, मैं उससे डिसएग्री करता हूँ। संसद के अंदर जो राज्यसभा में मेरे साथी रहे होंगे वो जानते होंगे, जितना गवर्नमेंट को, गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज़ को, गवर्नमेंट पर अटैक को जितनी मजबूती के साथ धनखड़ साहब ने डिफेंड किया था, उसको लेकर के कांग्रेस प्लस के जो हमारे मित्र थे वो उनसे नाराज भी थे और दुखी भी थे, जो आज उनकी हिमायत में बोलने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। लिहाजा उन्होंने खुद ये नहीं कहा है कि वो किन कारणों से इस्तीफ़ा दे रहे हैं, उन्होंने और कोई वजह नहीं बताई है। ये चीज़ें बाद में आएंगी। हम सारे स्पेकुलेशंस पे बातचीत कर रहे हैं। अब दिक्कत क्या होगी है कि वो उपराष्ट्रपति तो उनको हमने बनाया और हमारे जो विरोधी साथी हैं वो आजकल उनके बड़े हमदर्द बन गए हैं। जो लोग उनके इस्तीफे की डिमांड करते रहे और कोई दिन नहीं जाता था। और मैं ये भी कहना चाहता हूँ, मैंने कुरियन साहब के साथ भी काम किया है, वो कांग्रेस पार्टी के एमपी थे। मैं जब लोकसभा में था तो वो कांग्रेस पार्टी के लोकसभा में एमपी थे, लेकिन उनको लेकर के कभी कोई असुविधाजनक परिस्थिति बीजेपी के साथ नहीं हुई जैसी धनखड़ साहब के साथ हुई। धनखड़ साहब ने सरकार के पक्ष को, व्यू पॉइंट्स को बहुत मजबूती के साथ संसद में उठाया। लिहाजा जो थ्योरी चल रही है कि कोई कन्फ्रंटेशन है, मुझे उसमें कोई तथ्य नजर नहीं आता।
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Maria, I have a very brief point to make, and I'm not trying to take pot shots. The fact that the BJP is not a part of this debate tells you what has happened. I again go back and say, I am not here defending Mr. Dhankhar because I have a lot of bone to pick with him personally as a citizen of this country. Mr. Tyagi is absolutely right. He put across the point of the government very forcefully. But was he meant to? Was that his job? He was supposed to be bipartisan. There were times when he would even expunged details from Mr. Kharge's speech. He would interfere repeatedly when the leader of the opposition, Rajya Sabha, spoke. I have no love for Mr. Dhankhar's style of functioning as vice president. I have love for the position which he was on, and I have concerns on the kind of constitutional compromise that is happening with various positions. I'm asking you a question. Why did Urjit Patel resign? Has anybody asked that question after demonetization? Why did Ashok Lavasa quit and go to ADB? He was an election commissioner. Why did Mr. Dhankhar quit? And I will go back and say, anybody who believes he was unwell, I'm not casting aspersions. Was he unwell? I wish him a long, healthy life. But even if he had some health issues, you think these health issues cannot be dealt with while being in the chair? I mean, India's healthcare system, especially for people in parliament and people in constitutional positions, is very good. I think this government owes an explanation to the parliament and the people of this country that why did the second most important constitutional position lie vacant today? And one important thing that I want to say here, you had a former governor appointed by the BJP, Mr. Satyapal Malik, become very critical of them. He was very, very critical, and he was very, very critical of the stand that the BJP has taken on farm issues. The BJP has continuously alienated the farming community of this country, whether it was the 3 laws that they tried to shove down their throats or otherwise. And Mr. Dhankhar had also begun to talk a little critically about the farming laws and the farming stand on MSP and things the government has. Is it yet another farmer who has met the fate that Mr. Satyapal Malik met, fall out of favor with the government? I think that's also something worth discussing.
Okay. Professor Sajjin Kumar, as someone who is a watcher, keen watcher of political developments, how do you see this entire 24 hours? It was around this time last evening that the resignation news came in.
Yes, I mean, perceptions underwent a paradigm shift. Initially, certainly at 9:30, the news came. It was a surprise, but nevertheless, the first reaction was to trust the letter of the Vice President, because there has been sudden announcement like this, say for example by Sushil Kumar Modi, Arun Jaitley, and lots many other leaders. This is one. Two, by morning certainly one expected the treasury benches and the government to come up with certain statement, because being a senior leader, being holding the constitutional post, if certainly the health crisis is so serious that he has to resign at 9:30, then one expects a cordial statement and response. And when that did not come, even when the session today started at 11 a.m., some speculation space was there. Whether that's right or wrong, the speculation is not the point. The point is that the space for the speculation emerged therein. And most importantly, if you do the content analysis of the Prime Minister tweet and compare that with the tweets he made today with regard to other leaders, for example, the former Kerala Chief Minister, Ajit Pawar in Maharashtra, etc., etc., then the tweet was quite brief with regard to the Dhankar, and certainly one expected more warmth. So that is why the speculation remains, the space is there. So this is about the sort of how do we see the changing perceptions. And I'm not talking about the ones who are embedded to certain party position. This is about how you try to guess and connect the dots. That is.
Are you then saying that there's lots to be answered, and particularly there's a lot of intrigue around this?
That seems
and that should be addressed.
That seems to be the case, and certainly the treasury benches seems to be doing not a very kind of serious and customized job, because expectation is to come clean, because this is a matter of a constitutional post, and therefore people certainly wants to know. And in that regard, one need the ruling party and the treasury benches should come up with a sort of explanation, because the Vice President is not speaking. He is not coming up with any supplementary position, and that keeps the people kind of guessing. But here one important aspect, Maria, is that this is there is some serious aspect herein, and K.C. Tyagi sir will concur with me, because this aspect, this crisis that we see today, right?
Yes.
Whether of perception or reality, involves two aspects. One, the parties, ruling party, and the constitutional post and the person who are accompanying that. And this kind of a chemistry and conflict between the party and the people holding the constitutional post is nothing new, and it remains. The more things change, the more they remain the same. Now it's Vice President Dhankar. You remember 2008, it was Somnath Chatterjee, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. You go back in the past, President Gyani Jail Singh and Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, go back. Fakrud, then you have V.V. Giri and Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy way back in 1969. So it seems that whenever there is a conflict between the person who is holding the constitutional position and the party leadership, ruling party leadership, it's always that the party has an upper hand, and this is not a good signal for institutional health of democracy in India, and this remains true for all the parties to come.
Okay. Yeah. One point before I bring in Supriya, I want to bring in K.N. Nehru now. Lok Sabha MP, what sources in the government are telling us, Mr. Nehru, that of course this was about that impeachment motion which was accepted by the outgoing Vice President in the Rajya Sabha, when the government's strategy was to bring it in the Lok Sabha. One may say that because of how critical and crucial this impeachment motion against Justice Verma is, it would be only fair for that kind of coordination to having been expected between the chair and treasury benches.
Madam, let's understand one thing, that this particular episode of the impeachment of sitting judge was actually broached by the ruling government and the treasury benches.
Yes.
And the Congress also voiced its support because saying that the proper procedure must be followed and we will support if there is wrong and we will support it. Now you have a VP who has taken the treasury benches line and for a simple ego saying for doing the right thing that when the opposition's motion was accepted, if for a simple ego, let's believe that the treasury benches were right, let's believe what the ruling party is saying is right. I don't think it augurs well for a vibrant democracy like India to act on a whim of an ego just because the opposition's motion was right. And we also must understand that's an important point to note here is about a week and 10 days ago, Mr. Haribhushan Thakur, who's an MLA from JDU, I'm not pointing out right or wrong here, had coincidentally mentioned that Nitish ji should also be felicitated as VP. Now, we're just trying to connect the dots here. Nobody knows, as Professor Sajjin and Professor Vineet also had mentioned, nobody knows the entire facts. But let's not even get anything personal here. This is a constitutional
so the
position.
point that you have made about Nitish Kumar as a potential vice president, K.C. Tyagi would be able to respond to that.
Right. Let me finish. Okay.
Yes, please. Go ahead, Mr. Nehru. Yes.
Here. So I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to project something here, but it's just a connection of events. Nothing happens in a standalone manner. There are things that happen afterwards. There are things that happened before. But what we have to understand here is I am not casting aspersions. All that we are asking is a simple explanation. And we hope that a constitutional position shouldn't be, handled like this after.
Okay. K.C. Tyagi? Of course, there's a lot of buzz in the corridors of power. 2 months to go for the Bihar elections. Will the Vice President's chair then be filled just ahead of the winter session? That's also a speculation.
मारिया जी, एक तो जो मेरे दोस्त हैं डीएमके के, मैं उनको करेक्ट करना चाहता हूं. हरिभूषण ठाकुर जी इज द मेंबर ऑफ द बीजेपी लेजिस्लेटिव पार्टी. 1 2 ये खबर जब अखबार में छपी कि नीतीश कुमार जी उपराष्ट्रपति बनते हैं तो हरिभूषण ठाकुर ने कहा तो बिहार के लिए गौरव की बात होगी. मैं आपके चैनल से अपनी पार्टी की तरफ से बहुत क्लियर करना चाहता हूं कि वो दिल्ली में किसी पद के दावेदार नहीं हैं. वो बिहार के मुख्यमंत्री हैं, एनडीए के कैंडिडेट हैं और एनडीए के चुनाव जीतने के बाद ही जिसकी संभावनाएं हैं वो ही वहाँ के मुख्यमंत्री बनेंगे. इसलिए उपराष्ट्रपति पद के लिए उनके लिए ना हमारे मन में कोई इच्छा है और ना वो चाहते हैं.
Okay. Maria? Supriya, you get the last word on the last word tonight.
No. I don't want to have the last word. I just want to point out one date. It was the 9th of February 2021. Ghulam Nabi Azad was retiring from Parliament. And guess who was weeping and who was shedding tears and who got so emotional and choked? It was Mr. Modi. Now compare that choking and those tears for Ghulam Nabi Azad to what happens today, a cryptic 3-line tweet that he had got multiple opportunities and we wish him well. I also want to say one thing here, and I think all of us in public life should keep repeating this, that when you are in a constitutional position, the only guiding light for you has to be the Constitution of India. You don't have to bend backwards to make your political masters or politicians happy. You should do your job and do it well and with honesty. And I think that's a lesson one learns, because politicians cannot be made happy at all times. And look at this ugly fallout that seems to have happened. I'm not speculating, I'm not casting aspersions, but this is unceremonious, it's unprecedented, and it's also unnecessary, if I may.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor Sajjin Kumar, Professor Vineet Singh, Supriya Shrinate, K.C. Tyagi, and K.N. Arun Nehru. Joining me now is Arvind Savant, Member of Parliament of the Shiv Sena UBT faction. Mr. Savant, of course, there is a lot of speculation that is doing the rounds. There is a lot of unanswered questions. One view is also coming that had Mr. Dhankhar grown really close to the opposition and started engaging too much with the opposition leaders, since you are a member of Parliament yourself, did you see or sense any change in his behavior, particularly in the last few weeks?
Not at all. He never become a darling of the opposition. Let it be very open on the subject. So do not create a narrative that yesterday you were in opposition, today has become darling. No, not at all. It's $1 million question. See, if he has ill health, why during the last 3 months of the last session you can see, he did not resign. How you chose the first day of the session? And in the session, When he arrived in the morning in Rajya Sabha, he started conducting the business smoothly. He conducted the business. He was there on the chair. He allowed the opposition leader to speak on certain rules, where he has put up the issue of Pahalgam, which immediately hurt Mr. Nadda, the leader of the house. And the way he has replied to and tried to create disturb or disrupt the speech of the Mallikarjun Kharge ji, the opposition leader in the Rajya Sabha, that shows, he had an intention that the speaker should not have given an opportunity to LOP to speak out this issue. That was his first intention. This is what my observation is there. Then secondly, he was very much healthy. He was nice. He was saying, he was speaking very smoothly. There was no issue as such. Why the first day? Then another incident. He had a meeting where the opposition, the leader of the house and the minister of the parliamentary affairs was to meet him. Both of them did not go to his office and quietly said that we have informed their office. Is it not an insult to the vice president? Is it not an insult to the vice president? They could have gone and said, what was that very, very important work? Let the nation know that they did not have time to go to the appeal made by the vice president to approach them. I don't know. And then there was another issue when Mr. Dhankhar ji has announced or issued a notice that 4 o'clock there will be business advisory committee meeting. If he had an intention to resign, he would not have issued the notice for a business advisory committee at all.
Okay.
That shows there is something behind that.
Okay,
That proves there is something behind. He must have been forced to resign.
Mr. Savant, since you are saying that he has been forced to resign, you're talking about a sequence of events which has made you question and perhaps come to this conjecture. Who would force him to resign? And why would he be really forced to resign?
Who runs the nation? Only two leaders. The Supreme Court judge retires and next year joins the Rajya Sabha. Who decides? Is it the President of India? You tell me. Is it the President of India decides? You tell me. The High Court judge from Calcutta, High Court judge, he resigns, next day joins BJP, contests the election, wins the election. How is it? Then what he must have done in the past, was he as judicious when he was holding the post of a judge of a High Court? $1 million questions are there. Who is running the parliament? Who is running the country? Think of it, introspect, and you will get the answers to that.
Mr. Savant, it's rather interesting that this is the same opposition which had called him a mouthpiece of the government. This is the same opposition which had brought an impeachment motion against Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar just 6 months ago, and now you are standing with him. How did this change of heart happen?
No, it's not a changing of stand, ma'am. Please, don't create this narrative at all. He was never ever the darling of the Rajya Sabha. We used to meet a member of the Rajya Sabha. He used to work for BJP itself. But then, sudden rejection of the constitutional post, which is holding number 2 post in the country. It's not a Tom, Dick, Harry. Who is resigning? Vice President. Who is attending the office, conducting the business, sitting on the chair, and suddenly by evening you come to me, resign on ill health. If it is so, why not before the session launch? Why on the first day? Why you chose the first day of the session? There was no reason. Of late, he had been to JNU. While addressing the students of the JNU, he said, I'll retire, not resign. I'll retire in 2027. The man who said he'll retire in 2027 resigns in 2025. Just think of it. Therefore, nation should come. I believe Dhankhar is always used to say himself, I am a Kisan ka beta. And take it from here, day will come. Honorable Dhankhar ji himself will say what was the reason that he has resigned.
It's a lot of questions,
he
but
cannot keep silent for all the time. And the way BJP's silence speaks a volume.
Of course, Mr. Savant,
Speaks
as
about
an opposition leader, you will be raising those questions and you have asked a lot of questions. But one thing is clear, that Jagdeep Dhankhar, did he perhaps make a move which triggered this, chain of events, ultimately leading to his resignation?
No, not at all. He is that sort of man, we could guess it. I have met him twice. And
No, but he came very close to the opposition.
Friendly, open man.
He would meet all of you
Never used to keep
regularly.
something close inside it. Had he want to resign, he would have said it in the house itself. Today is my last day. I have come. I am not feeling well. I will conduct the business. Please cooperate me. This is my last day. I want to resign. He would have said it. I tell you. He is that sort of man. He would have said it in the house itself. He never uttered a single word. On the contrary, he wanted to conduct the business of advisory committee meeting in the evening. There lies the issue. Thank you.
All right, Arvind Savant, I appreciate your time.